In our top story tonight, hospital officials are speaking out against the practice of some residents who abuse the ambulance service. Though not widespread, medical consultant at the QEH, Dr. David Beyer, said there were a few cases where ambulances were dispatched to minor reports.
A few that come to mind would be centipede bite to toe, dental pain in terms of a toothache, and other such minor cases. Now here's the thing. So what we've done to try to work so that the genuine emergencies get an ambulance when it's available is that we put GPS on the ambulances.
Dr. Beyer says there is a misconception that a patient will be given preferential treatment once they arrive at the QEH via ambulance.
Ambulance is an emergency vehicle, and basically if we can basically utilize it for as much as possible emergencies, it will do the nation good, because then it will allow that if basically an emergency occurs, you have the capacity to respond. And if we could get that there out in terms of people utilizing their own transport, or even if they want to recognize that their case is not emergent and recognize that it may not be for us an emergency, or the case may be, to just be a little bit knowledgeable in terms of what is an ambulance call.
Staff at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital are constantly being trained to ensure they are ready for any mass casualty. Emergency response teams were pressed into action on Thursday after a two-vehicle collision involving a minibus and a transport board bus. One person was killed and several injured as a result. Acting head of the Accident and Emergency Department at the QEH, Dr. Reggie King, believes the training is vital. Police and fire personnel also take part in the exercise.
We have regular simulations, both desktop and actual patient simulations. There is a mass casualty course which is led by Mr. Thani, which is involved in training people at different levels, both in the emergency department and in the hospital generally, on what's necessary for management of mass casualty situations.
Government is holding another round of talks with the Barbados Workers Union and the National Union of Public Workers to examine the possibility of a reduction in the number of public sector jobs being cut. Those talks at government headquarters with Finance Minister Chris Sinclair started at 3:30 this afternoon, with Sir Roy Trotman leading the BWU delegation to the discussions and Dennis Clark, the delegation of the NUPW. The two sides met earlier this week and agreed that there is a window of possibility for a reduction in the numbers being laid off from the 3,000 proposed by government. Following those discussions, Mr. Sinclair told reporters some of the proposals submitted by the NUPW are feasible. And CBC understands that those talks ended around 6:45 this evening and will resume again on Monday at 3:30 at government headquarters. Prime Minister Fundell Stewart says severance payments arrangements are being worked out for the retrenched drainage workers who qualify. He made the comments yesterday at Illawarra Court after meeting the former employees along with several of his ministers. Mr. Stewart says the Ministry of the Environment is taking charge of the arrangements for the severance payment process, as well as vacation monies that are outstanding to the displaced workers.
Once we get a grand total, that will have to engage the attention of Parliament by way of supplementary requests, and once we pass that hurdle, all of the workers will get their entitlements. And of course, we intend to put in place some advisory mechanisms so that if they need advice on how to make effective use of their packages, they will have that advice. In addition to that, they've been made aware by the Minister of Labour, who is also with us today, that there is still that $10 million training fund available, and that there will be opportunities for training with a stipend attached out of that. So there's not all darkness ahead, there is some light, and we intend to work with these men and women and help them to keep their lives together.
A suggestion that government more closely examine the terms and conditions of service of public sector workers as part of its policy going forward. This advice from President of the Barbados Nurses Association, Blondell Mullins, who notes that although Barbados is facing financial challenges, the problems facing the country aren't monetary alone. The head of the Nurses Association told CBC News the BNA has continued to highlight the challenges that nurses have encountered in trying to deliver quality nursing care.
Nurses at some of the institutions have been acting in positions for several years and has not been appointed. Some nurses are even functioning in higher positions without enumerations. Uniforms continue to be a problem. Of course, the financial situation has curtailed studying and training programs. All of these issues, including the shortage of nurses and the stress of working overtime, will affect the morale of nurses and health of our nurses.
Ms. Mullins says Barbados cannot reduce its nursing complement if it is to continue providing excellent health care.
BNA has been given the assurance by the Minister of Health and Minister of Finance that nurses' jobs will not be affected in this exercise, knowing that at present the ratio of nurses is at a critical stage. Therefore, any change would have to be to increase, not decrease, the complement of nursing staff.
We'll have more news ahead in just a moment. Stay with us.
It's Jazz in January with the Naniki Caribbean Jazz Safari featuring Mary Wilson of the Supremes, pianist Randy Weston, Kelly Lee Evans, and the Oscar Peterson Legacy Band. Enjoy two of the best of Caribbean talent with Brio Ambrose from Haiti, Dominique and Cameron Beer, Alternative Quartet from Trinidad, Arturo Tappan, Allison Hines, and many others. Get your tickets for this thrilling musical ride from January 16th to 21st with stops at the brand new Sea Rock Stone at Barbados Beach Club, Harrison's Cave, and the Naniki Amphitheater. Tickets $80. Box offices, all Trimark supermarkets, Ticket Center, Warren's, Jordan Supermarket, NB Sound Sheraton, CS Pharmacy, or online at ticketpal.com. Visit the Naniki Caribbean Jazz Safari.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Represent Maureen Perry with her $10,000 check. I have been a loyal member alive and I will continue to.
And you've won $15,000!
Yes!
I carry $25,000 cold hard cash with your check.
Thank you so much.
Paul, you're our grand prize winner of the line Share the Chair.
Thank you. I feel great. I feel extremely great.
Share the chair, Radio is here.
And the operations at the Thelma Vaughan Memorial Home could run more smoothly this year. It comes as a check to the tune of $2,300 was donated to the Glebland St. George facility by Santa Claus and his little helpers. Speaking after today's donation, Deputy Chairman of the home, Susan Wiles, says the donation is welcomed now, especially after the home's subventions were recently cut. She says the money will go towards the home's building accounts or the operation fund.
It's not a great boost for our finances at this time. Like everyone else, we too are also suffering from the our economic situation. Our subvention has been cut, so that it means that this has come at a great time for us. As we continue with our fundraising for 2014, this has kicked us off with a good start.
The international economic recession has been affecting a major flower arranging event. Rector of the St. Peter's Parish Church, Canon Peter Haynes, says the 2014 Flower and Garden Festival has started slowly when compared to past years. Despite this trend, Canon Haynes is hopeful the turnout will increase in the coming days. He says the event allows persons of all ages to enjoy God's flowers in a relaxing atmosphere.
Persons are not willing to put out the money as before, but having caught on, having got into it, we are seeing an increase of patronage. There's a heavy arrival or heavy support from the tourists lots of tourists, and lots of the older people who appreciate the flowers. Persons on wheelchairs, persons on canes, the older Barbadians are here.
The National Identification Office in Haiti says it will embark on a program to register and deliver identification cards to Haitians living in the diaspora. This comes in the wake of a ruling by the Constitutional Court in the Dominican Republic that has had the effect of rendering stateless thousands of people of Haitian descent. Director General of the National Identification Office, Jean-Baptiste Saint-Cyr, says his office is working with some of the Haitian embassies overseas to register and deliver identification cards to nationals living abroad. Many Haitians living abroad do not have identity documents issued by the Haitian state, while the countries where they now reside do not provide them with documents allowing them to remain there legally.